Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Union Budget 2026-27 in the Parliament. To help us get an insight on the key highlights of the budget, we have eminent economist and member NITI Aayog, Dr. Arvind Virmani with us. Dr. Virmani, a warm welcome to you from Akashvani. Dr. Virmani, the budget is no longer seen just as a financial exercise, but also as an indicator of policy priorities of the government. In that context, what would you say are the key areas of focus for 2026-27 outlined in the budget?
So, as an economist, I generally think of one simple sentence which defines the Honorable Prime Minister's goal of having a Viksit Bharat by 2047. It is sustained, fast, inclusive growth. So, each word of those words has a meaning, but I'm just giving you the context in which I, as an economist, look at it. And what can we do to make sure that happens? So, from that perspective, uh, there are two or three things I would say, which for me and for this limited perspective, economic perspective, one, of course, is the macro fiscal stability, which has been a goal of this government right from day one, 11 years or 12 years ago. And that really is becomes even more important when the whole world is kind of in turmoil and there's a lot of uncertainty. Because we know from historical experience that having a stable and good fiscal balance then allows monetary policy enough room to deal with shocks. So the combination of, we have seen many countries across the world, that the combination of kind of slightly tighter fiscal policy and looser monetary policy helps you overcome these shocks very efficiently, actually. The second point I would make is that, in a sense, that one has to see this in the context of the last budget or last few budgets. That first, for the first time, I would say I have seen, I've been in tens of budgets. I have participated in. I've seen for 2-3 decades. Uh, but the big emphasis since the last budget on skills, on skilling the labor force, the potential labor force, the actual labor force. And I have a simple one line slogan. I like to have the one liners. I've given you one already. Yeah, the second one is and I partly, so skills and jobs are two sides of the same coin. This is very different from the conventional wisdom that there are all these seekers and they go to create jobs. So I'm saying the opposite. I am saying if there are enough skills or you create the skills, the job will be there. Simple way to understand it is that 58% of Indian workers are self-employed. Okay, there's no such thing as a job which they go to. They are self-employed. They create the job. So the more skilled they are, the more productive they are, the bigger, better the job is because they are doing it themselves. So imagine 58%. It's not big deal. Compared to that, the really what we think of as jobs or employed is like 19% of the workers only. So jobs and skills that a focus on skilling, I think it's very, very important. The fact that for the second time, and there are many examples of it which can go after we finish. And the third one is an overlap of this, which is services. Now, manufacturing is very important, and we will discuss the importance of that, and particularly in the global context now, with all these uncertainties arising from policies of different countries, bans, restrictions, tariffs, etc. But services is very important because it can create jobs at every level of skills. We think of services as IT services. No, the way I think of services is low-level job, medium skill. Example of medium skill jobs is like electricians and plumbers. There's a demand not only in India but all over the world. So every level service, and even manufacturing, if you think of it, the direct jobs are on the assembly line, and that's very good because it's absorbing a lot of women workers in electronics and etc., which is great. But even the much of the indirect job will actually be what we would define as services. So even when we talk of manufacturing direct and indirect jobs, many of those are services related to manufacturing, supporting manufacturing. That's right. So to me, the big message, which frankly, you could say I'm biased because these are the things I've been working on besides industry, but these are the real messages. And the interesting thing you will notice is that the skill thing is now being mentioned in every context. Whether we talk about the chemical industry, we talk about health. They're talking about auxiliary health personnel. You're talking about skilling. You talk about tourism. We are talking about training tourism guides. All these will create jobs. It is not just a job for which you train somebody, but you train people and the jobs appear, to exaggerate a little bit. Okay, so that is it. So in the budget itself, it's mentioned tourism, AHP, sports, but my point, it is generalizable. It's all across the spectrum, and if you look for individual, you'll find skills mentioned all over the budget. So I think that's very new. These two things, the macro stability is conventional, and then there are of course a whole lot of other aspects which we can go into, but I am giving you the ones which I personally, as an economist, think are very important for, whether you think in a 10-year or 20-year perspective.
So, Dr. Mawali, you talked about macro stability first of all. If we see the maths of the budget, fiscal deficit target for next financial year has been reduced to 4.3% from 4.4% of current year, and debt to GDP ratio is also down from 56.1% to 55.6%. So, this balancing fiscal consolidation with our high growth objective, this must have been particularly challenging in the external environments that you just alluded to.
Quite right. So since the 15 Finance Commission, the previous Finance Commission, because of the pandemic, the fiscal deficit jumped to take care of that situation. And the 15th Finance Commission had given a glide path. So I think that has been appreciated not just in India but across the world, that the budgets since that time have stuck to that glide path. And I think that's very important for both for gaining credibility and the space which I mentioned for fiscal and monetary policy to work in harmony to maximize kind of growth and minimize inflation, which is the goal of macro policy. Yeah, the challenge is because, again, it has been discussed, but every shock means there is a new thing to focus on and demand for new expenditures. So, for example, since 2020, the crisis on our borders, the terrorist incident in Pahalgam, and so on, clearly the security environment, on all our borders, for nothing to do with us, but from their goals and their ways of looking at things, the security situation has worsened. So clearly, one need was there to raise the capital defense capital budget, and you will see that it's raised by around 20%, 21%, and the R&D on defense capital R&D has also been raised by over 15.6. So clearly new challenges need, there are new demands, and then they have to be balanced off against that fiscal deficit glide path and the usual traditional type of demands. And I think the budget has managed that reasonably well.
So, the current government has always given more priority to capital expenditure over revenue expenditure. And the government capex for 2026-27 is 9% higher than last year at 12.2 lakh crore rupees. Can you tell us how this priority and this momentum in capex, how does it benefit the economy at large?
Right. So over the last 4 years or so, the capital expenditures have increased. I think till last budget, it was roughly 33% per year or something. May not be the exact number, but so there's two things. One, what drove that process was one, to improve the quality of the expenditures, and an economic fact which again comes from economists in India, that the multiplier effect of government capital expenditure is about 2.5, while the revenue expenditure multiplier is like 1, okay, or even less for certain types of expenditure. So that was the motivation, both these, to improve the quality of the budget expenditures and to utilize this multiplier to revive the economy after the pandemic. So this thing started after the pandemic, 3 years, 3 years, right? It'll be till 24 from 21. Yeah, roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly. That's been the motivating force. But in the last year or two, again, from an economist perspective, I think uh, the expenditure on the infrastructure was very good. The infrastructure of whether it's roads, airports, railways, you name it, was being built up. And so, as usual, economists like me would say, okay, let's take a little bit of pause, see whether we need to adjust where we are spending expenditures to get the, in simple terms, maximum bang for the buck, right? What is more efficient, what is less, you need to adjust. So it was expected. I mean, this was even before I joined this government. We were saying that we need to look at the efficiency and take a little bit of pause, because if you keep increasing, uh, we know again from historical experience that things start getting more and more wasted. So there has been a gradual slowing down, but the numbers remain very high. So the growth rate is no longer 30%, and as you pointed out, it has been gradually brought down. And the idea is now to make sure those things which need, for example, waterways. Waterways is a very efficient needs of multimodal. Healthy waterways have been now some of the expenditure shifted there. They are now better experience of, let's say, freight corridors, rail corridors, etc., highways, and so on. So, given that experience, uh, there is also adjustment of how to do it, and you've seen these various corridors being announced. So that is the thing. It's all, money doesn't grow on trees. We have to use it effectively, and so that is what is happening.
So this infrastructure build up, as you said, there's a multiplier effect that leads to jobs also. So when we talk of jobs, just now you mentioned that the other point of jobs is skills. So if we talk of skills, the budget has focused on specific sectors to upgrade skills and enhance job creation, like tourism, which you just mentioned, textiles, and special thrust has been given to AI skilling and adoption. Uh, in fact, in this speech, it is said that AI was mentioned 11 times. So this is in keeping with the times, and that is the futuristic outlook that the budget represent.
So, technology has long time lapse, right? Especially new technologies means you got to bend the structures, right? You have to train the professors first. Even the professors are learning now, right? It's a completely new. Even if you take the best Indian professors in IIT, let's say 10 years ago, maybe one person would have known what AI is and to use it. So it's a lag. It takes a long time when you're catching up or you're looking at future. So whether it's AI, quantum, and all these frontier technologies, you have to start building in advance. So it may take 5 to 10 years to build the basic knowledge, capabilities, etc., and then translate into productive, income, jobs, profits, etc. In AI, definitely, I think the important thing is that because it is the frontier, we can aim right for the front. So on AI, for example, there was a discussion with IMF. IMF said something, but we said we are in the top three AI things, and we want to get there. That doesn't mean immediately AI will become a big income generator or job generator, but you have to start doing that. In the meanwhile, all the other things, perhaps we've already mentioned some of them, whether it is manufacturing, the kind of jobs it can create, and whether it's for strategic. Of course, manufacturing now has a big strategic element, which I hinted at earlier because of all these bans and tariffs and restriction. But also, of course, there's a employment part, both direct and indirect. So similarly, uh, the services you mentioned, sports, even sports, culture, the orange economy, all these will generate jobs. And India is a huge country. Unlike many other countries, they focus on one or two, one industry or one product and one skill. We have to do, because of a huge population, you have a huge diversity. So some states may be going more into industry, some may go into tourism. So from a national perspective, we have to keep the whole thing in mind. So in that context, AI obviously has an important role. Now, I just want to mention here one difference in the way we look at AI than, say, China or certain other countries. Is the demographics. See, we are going to be the human capital supplier of the world because our demographics is like that. Their demographics is downwards, ours is upwards. And this applies to almost all developed countries and plus China, which is not really a developed country, but is very important. Obviously. So the way we look at it is in enhancement of the quality and productivity of human resources. Unlike China, which wants AI to replace brains because the number of brains they have will go down. They want to replace people physical by robots because the number of people available will go down. So our approach is very different from those of countries which are on a demographic decline, so to say, in terms of share of population. So that is one thing to be kept in mind. So India has a very important role. AI, quantum and everything else is important, but in AI we are very different from the way we have to approach it than these countries who are in the frontiers. People say America and China, but their whole demographics is going to be different. Their whole focus is going to be different. So in that sense, AI is kind of in the leading edge, and that is what the budget and the government's pronouncements tell you that, there's an AI summit coming up again. We have a particular perspective which we want to be in the rules based order that will emerge over the next decade.
Absolutely. And also, MSMEs have always been a focus area for your government. And they have been allocated 10,000 rupees fund for creating champion SMEs. Can you tell us more about this? How do you see the overall thrust in the budget for the manufacturing sector, including the customs duty changes?
Right. So, by definition, MSME and corporation, there are many different categories, right? Yeah. Unlike, in any other country, we have a huge diversity. We have a formal sector, informal sector, micro, mini, small, etc. So that is why you see, for an outsider, I have to try to explain why you may see so many different schemes, because each thing is somewhat different. They have different requirements, they have different gaps. So, again, from a national perspective, we have to cater to all these. The states will then choose what is more relevant for themselves. So the part which is uniform, of course, which applies to everybody, is infrastructure, right? But local infrastructure is most important for small enterprises. So that is a new thing which we are emphasizing. In my travels across the country, that's what I noticed. That the large, mega parks, etc., was going fine, but in the process, the legacy areas were kind of not receiving sufficient attention. So the government decided that we need to put a little more emphasis on that and bring it to the attention. Ultimately, national government cannot operate at that level. It has to be the state. So what we try to do is bring it to attention, give a little nudge, give a little hype, so that, because there are so many local industrial areas. So that is one thing. But the general things are like income tax reform. So, right, we've got a new law which was passed, which was proposed in the budget of last year. It's being passed. The rules, the current budget shows that we are very focused on containing, the simplification through the rules and forms, right? You can have a simplified law, but unless it translates into the bottom, which is the form you have to fill, It does not help the smaller people. Bigger people can always manage. So going from there to simplified rules and simplified form. So that was an important, we use the word process reform. So like that, there were a number of process reform which affect, for example, GCCs, which affect in terms of their interaction with the tax authorities. So there's a lot of process reform which will affect MSMEs, small, large, all of it. And then the third one, which you mentioned, there's so many I can do specifically, but the equity part, for example, it was fed. We have done 2 or 3 reports. I also oversee industry in NITI, but we have done like 2 or 3 reports on different segments of this MSLE. I told you, they're very varied. They're very many different, and we've done on sectors. We have done cross-cutting reports. So one of the things one of these reports revealed is that there is a gap that we generally think of the small part. We don't think of the medium, MSME, right? The last M, okay? Because we want them to become super. I mean, they should not just be medium. They should become corporate. They should stride the world. So there was a gap from going from that medium to large. So one of the objectives of this equity fund is to see which scale that, which are capable of meeting the higher quality standards, the international standards, and operating on the global stage to provide a thing. Because you see, the thing with upgradation is another thing which we have learned over the years, which people really don't understand, that it's not just one thing. It's not just technology. It is the skills, the management, the technology, the components they use, the machinery, it goes together. So the risk become large. If you are at, let's say, this level, A minus, and you want to go to A plus, there's a lot of risk because you have to change the whole kind of chain.
Any vertically change the chain.
That's right. Absolutely right. You got it. So there's a lot more risk. So what we are trying to do is again provide a little help in the form of equity, which will maybe allow them to take these risks.
In fact, in the budget, it was very beautifully classified. The first Kartavya, accelerate and sustain economic growth, then which talked about development of cities also. And the second Kartavya, fulfilling aspirations and building capacity. To that extent, the skilling aspect.
Absolutely. That is what I emphasize.
And the third Kartavya, the inclusive development aspect. There also very interesting announcements have been made. What is the She Marts? Self-help entrepreneurship marts. How important are these to help the rural population really expand their avenues of income? And even Bharat Vistar, if we talk about, which is going to use AI to help improve farmers' productivity.
So this is in line. First, let me take the last question because it relates to AI. I mentioned that we are planning to, or thinking, or trying to use AI differently from the other countries before because of our demographics. So one of the issues which again comes up is the information problems, right? So getting the right information to the right farmer at the right time. That information problem or knowledge problem, right? We have, I think, more than 50%, if I remember correctly, of our farmers are small and marginal. They're not clued into everything. They are focused on their land. So bringing that knowledge and information which is relevant to that. So one of the important thing which is a vision which many people have talked about, but it's in my vision uh, 2050 also. But the point is to use AI to create this information basis. So that is what one of them is mentioned in the budget. There are many others which we have been trying, right? So a platform for MSMEs, a platform for agriculture where the AI helps the farmer. Farmer, if he doesn't have a small farmer, doesn't really know what all the technologies exist in the world or what exists even in India, right? So if he can give his problems, put them on this platform, the AI will then analyze these problems with this. So one of the proposals is to join the ICAR based of practices, best practices. So with the platform which we have already, the Agriculture Ministry had done, to join them. so that the AI can use these practices to advise individual people. So all those sort of things are happening, and as you said, one of the inclusive ones is there was a program on Lakpati Didis. Yeah, that has succeeded at a lot. So the government, this is not me, but the government, others have been trying to think what is the next thing we could do to help female participation. So that's what it is. That trade is growing. I talked to an NGO which is setting up these rural marts. You know,
These self-help entrepreneurs.
yeah, these are kind of social entrepreneurs. Now, government cannot do everything, but we can provide a little help. So this is in the line of that. That if these marts are being set up, is there something we can do to help women entrepreneurs in the local areas start thinking, okay, if this others are doing, why cannot I or a group of women get together and set up some kind of a local mart, right? So that's another idea